what's the investment fact of the week? Or
I have
interesting.
two
Investing. What's the investing factor of the
investment.
week?
I have two really good ones. Number one, revolving credit, which includes credit cards, has jumped to 13.8 billion from 13.8 billion to 1.3 trillion, the highest since November of 2022. I keep saying this year reminds me a lot of 2022. This is the largest increase since 2023. And point number two, AI stocks are just destroying software. From the highs, Figma's down 85%, Trade Desk is down 78%, Atlassian is down 68%, Rubrik is down 51%, CoreWeave is down 52%, Iron is down 46%, Astera Labs is down 35%, and Palantir is down 35%. This is reminding me a lot of 2022. The cause is different, of course, but the drops that we're seeing this year are eerily similar to 2022, and we'll talk about it more later. But if you are investing into software companies, now is not the time with AI being so aggressive and eating their moat.
You left Salesforce out of there, man.
I try not to be a bully all the time. I'm gonna stop, but yes, they are down. Yeah. AMD down 22%, Broadcom down 20%. Software as a service, I'm not saying it's dying, but the AI is a considerable threat to that entire category, for sure.
Yeah, I think the interesting point. AMD, Broadcom, obviously in the semiconductor space. The software space is interesting because and I think Jensen, when he spoke, he was doing a lot of speaking last week, partly because I feel like the Super Bowl was in Santa Clara and they're like right there adjacent to it. So a lot of things are going on. But he kind of gave a vote of confidence for the software sector because if you've ever heard him talk about his 5 layers of artificial intelligence, right? Like there's obviously the infrastructure, there's the applications and who builds the applications, the software. So will software have its time? Yeah, it'll have its time. In fact, he said it almost feels like it's a ridiculous thought to think that software won't have a moment inside of AI. In fact, AI should help enhance it for the people who own it. I just think at this point, the sentiment around it, a lot of times people were like, well, what's happening? The sentiment around it is not in its favor, right?
It's not
so like
positive right now.
if you're in these companies, yeah, it'll have a moment. It's just not this moment. But it definitely is a part of that 5-layer tier of infrastructure, scalability, all the energy, all those things that are needed to have this thing work. Application is there. I think somebody was comparing it. We were having a conversation there. Like the internet was something that was invented, right? And Meta came, which was built as an application on top of it.
Yep.
On top of it. And so we're still in the phase of building the AI infrastructure. The applications will come, the software will come. It's just an interesting time right now.
Yeah, but on top of that, we have to Jensen's doing a masterful job of not turning the market more negative than what he is. He's pretty much the president of all things chips, software, and tech right now. Yeah. Because if he said software is screwed, the overall market would have slid probably 15%. Look at Spotify, though. 2 interesting comments. Jimmy Iovine said that he thinks that the end of streaming is going to come in the next 5 years. And then I was looking at my emails, and Spotify is going to selling books. I said, okay, if you have a stranglehold in the music industry and you're getting the remaining 29% that Universal and Warner let you get, why would you go to a completely different market? Well, if AI and the inclusion of AI is going to erode a lot of your business, it may be time to pivot. So I just thought it was an interesting fact that one of the biggest streaming services on earth is going to a completely different category that is outside of the normal category in which they're dominant in. So
yeah, I think you're spot on in that analysis. I just had this conversation with some guys who were in the industry, and they were saying the same thing when I was explaining to them CapEx spend versus revenue that's being brought in from it. And so that's an issue for them, right? How do they generate more revenue? And so you start thinking of different verticals that you do it that are not in the realm of what you're doing, right? And so like the book thing is, and that was like a damning statement for everything that Jensen
for sure. For it to come from him, yes,
to come from him is a damning statement for that. But when you start to see the tide turning, when you see like a guy like what LaRussell's done, shout out to LaRussell. I know he had a hell of a weekend out in the Bay. But even what J. Cole did when he decided to put his the mixtape on Even, right, which is like directly to consumer, directly back to me. You've cut out the Spotify's, you've cut out Apple. You don't have to go through them in that sense. Yep. And if people follow that model, I know Meek is talking about, he's been talking about that a lot. Like, how are we going to do this and be successful from an independent route? Now that the technology has advanced and it's actually here, yeah, it's going to change the landscape a little bit. And so they have to figure out different ways to generate revenue.
And the issue is that the top half of 1% of artists are getting the lion's share of the money. So even in that, I'm not saying that it's a Ponzi, but the way it's structured, there's no equal weighted distribution of capital that's coming in. So even the adjustment in going into the podcast space, which I don't know if the Rogan experiment worked out the best, but they've had a bunch of celebrities. Well, Ian and Charlamagne talked about it, right? On the great interview you guys did. That's a lot of CapEx spend there too, to get a certain level of attention, and I don't know if they gotten the return there. So I just think it's an interesting time for software, and everyone is having to retool their business at one time.
Yeah, the perfect analogy. That exactly. How are we getting return on the spend?
Yeah,
it's a fact. Also, happy Black History Month. February. Thanks. We're in it.
Kudos to y'all for making Black History. Be honest, clap it up for that.
Black History every day.
For real.
Black History every day. So, you know, had to pay homage with the Black History color sweaters. But yes, Black History Month in full effect for those that have tried to suppress it.
Every day.
Still here.
Let's make history. Every day.
What's the trading tip of the week?
I want to be very clear. I want to follow up from the one I gave last week. But well, let me say this first. If you can't look at the market with your setup and decide within 60 seconds where to get in, your process is too complicated. Make it simpler. Point number 2 for my futures traders. I want you to have the courage that options traders have. Something pissed me off last week, and it's not the person who said it, but a person said, hey, the average person can't trade 23 contracts in futures. Most people can only trade 1. And I'm like, if you look, this is one thing I love about the options community. Once they have conviction behind an investment, you guys are going all in. There's no one contract conversation with most people. And there are people who are just started maybe a year ago who are now trading 10 to 15 contracts. But I know futures traders that have been in for 5 years and they're still trading 2 to 3. At some point, you have to size up. And then Rashad will post, I got 1,000% while getting a jacuzzi. Then some of y'all get mad. At some point, futures traders, you have to size up. And another thing, I'm not talking to the average person. I'm talking to those who want to be exceptional. 23 contracts at 500 is not a lot of money in. It's 11.5. A lot of you are spending 11,500 on Van Cleef for this Valentine's Day, and come spring break, that girl's leaving you. I want you to put more capital into the things that will pay you well. And I want my futures traders to begin to have courage, chutzpah, and balls like the options traders. It's a bunch of options traders who are less than 3 years in, who have made hundreds of thousands or millions, and you are on Ninja or TradingView still trading 4. You deserve to be rich, Rico, right? So to the brother, thank you for the comment because it inspired this. But at some point, you have to size up. At some point, it has to go from a show to festival. That's a size up. At some point, you have to go from this is my zone of fear, and I'm going to operate out of that zone to get to the actual financial level that I want to get to. So my second tip is I want futures traders to have the courage that options traders do.
Amen. Yeah, I think what we saw last week was, in addition to that, what we're seeing in traders, especially in our communities, is the fear factor is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw a 2% pullback in the NASDAQ, right? We saw the Dow pullback, and it was volatile last week. And I didn't hear any chatter like, "Hey, I'm selling off my position," oh, I'm cutting my losses here. It was
I
like,
can't
hey,
believe I got in. Yep.
I can't believe I
It
did
was
this. My
it was
time limit is off.
elation.
It was like, hey, it's on sale. Let's go grab the positions that we thought that we wanted that are now
Yep.
available, right? We couldn't wait for these prices. Now they're here. And a lot of people executed. And then you look at Friday and it's like, oh, this is why we had that discipline. This is why we buy time. This is why we buy assets at depreciated prices and options contracts at depreciated prices, because we know eventually if we're in a strong company and we have time on our side, it's usually going to work out in our favor. So yeah, shout out to everybody that showed discipline last week. Everybody that had their seatbelt on and didn't take their seatbelt off. It was a roller coaster ride, but once you experience it, and shout out to Chris Johnson. I was watching a post he put up about not skipping any steps, right?
Yep.
So when you had $1,000 in and the 1,000 went to 500, how did you feel, right? You had that risk mitigation inside of that, then you went up to 5,000 and that went down to 3. And how'd you feel? You don't skip any steps. The people who come in and say, I got 10,000 and then that goes to 5 and they're like, I'm out of here. You've skipped some steps on that way, on that journey, right? That you learn a certain level of tolerance. You learn a certain level of financial discipline and emotional discipline when it comes to your finance when you see that happen. So when it pulls back like it did last week and there's volatility like there was last week, there's not the same overreaction. There's not that same angst. There's not that same fear of like, I'm going to lose it all. It's like, okay, we've been here before. We've seen it before. How do we execute and be better? Which I think
grow a tougher skin to it. And
man.
Imagine if every time you're on the plane, you hit turbulence, you go to the front of the plane and then you jump out of the plane, but out of fear. That's what a lot of you are doing in your trading and investing journey. There's a certain level of thick skinness that you'll go through as a trader. Don't get me wrong, the drops are not fun if you are on the wrong side of them. But like you said, for the drops that happen, and we'll talk about Bitcoin in a bit and how it bounced off of that level, you have to hold your positions long enough to go through the turmoil to know how it's going to pan out. Stop closing your trades out early. A lot of you are getting in, panicking, closing out, and then I get the messages, hey, I know we bounced off this level. What do I get in now? I gave you the price. You would have been in profit within 3 hours, but you have to hold through the turmoil. Put it in chat. I have to hold through the turmoil.
Yeah, and I'm happy when it happens because people get to experience it. Some people get to experience for the first time. Sometimes it's the 5th time, but you're experiencing it.
Yep.
And so now, once you experience it, now you have experience.
Absolutely, and then you won't panic. And then you too could go build from scratch and make your dreams come true. Like the thing that's so dope, even in you guys like to master media, and then like this is the crazy part. Shawty don't need to call me about this trades no more. Yo, I'm good. That's dope to see. Like, yo, this price dropped to this level. Man, we down 48%. I know this shit has to shoot up. Great. Why are you, if you're in chat, if you've been here longer than 2 years, why are you not exercising the same discipline? This is probably the easiest the market has ever been due to corruption and certain levers being pushed in the market. For my futures traders, I'm begging you, have more balls in your trades. That Friday trade, some of you should have knocked out 40, 50 grand, but you closed too early.
Friday, yeah.
Cojones. You got to have some cojones out here.
For sure.
And with that being said, get your tickets to Investfest.
Hey.
August 7th through August 9th in Atlanta. You know, it's kind of crazy because you watch the Super Bowl every year and it's like, who's going to be at the Super Bowl? Like, who's going to be, what teams are going to play, but also who's going to perform? That's like people are looking forward to. Same way at Investfest. Who's gonna, we know that the usual suspects will be there. Earn Your Leisure, Ian Dunlap, 19 Keys. You can pencil that in. But who's going to be, you know, we had Tyler Perry. We had Diddy. We had Steve Harvey. You can pencil him in as well. He's a regular.
Yeah, irregular. Icon still, but regular.
We had 50 Cent.
Classic.
We had Magic Johnson.
Classic.
Incredible.
What will 26 bring?
I ain't got no text about it, so I can't say nothing, y'all.
But get your tickets, investfest.com, get your vendor booths. Get the vendor booths. That's important.